Never in world history has there been a country as deeply in debt as the United States. Now, I hate saying that. I'm an American citizen, taxpayer like you, and my children. Oh my gosh, it's a good time to be old in America because we get the benefits and we don't have to pay for it. But my children are going to inherit huge problems, just like the British did and many other countries in history.
Central banks around the world have injected money into the economy at a record pace to try to fight a global recession triggered by the coronavirus pandemic.
Just getting word from the Federal Reserve.
Bombshell announcement from the Federal Reserve.
Since mid-March, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet has ballooned from $4 trillion to around $7 trillion, equal to about 1/3 of the value of the entire American economy.
A new CNBC survey showing that market participants expecting trillions more in stimulus from both the central bank and Congress.
At the same time, governments have enacted record amounts of fiscal stimulus to boost economies stalled by the pandemic.
As Milton Friedman said, inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. If you believe that, you look at the central bank balance sheets exploding right now, and you say there's going to be inflation.
Well, first of all, history shows that no country stayed on top forever, 100, 200 years at the max, and then they peak and go into decline. So I presume we're no different from anybody else. But one of the problems with history is people don't learn the lessons of history. You know, we had a president recently who didn't know history. Or if he did know history, he said he was smarter than history. I know I'm not smarter than history, and history is very clear. No nation and no currency, by the way, because they sometimes go hand in hand, has stayed on top forever. So America is now the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. We have troops in over 100 countries. There are people who would say that we're overextended financially, economically, militarily, and it looks like they might be right. So yes, no, I worry. Well, it has been 2.5 years. Things have changed indeed. I'm in quarantine, as you can probably see right now, and a lot of the world is closed down. But governments around the world have reacted by printing a lot of money and spending a lot of money and driving interest rates to the lowest in recorded history. So things are getting better. They have to get better. I live in Singapore. The airport was closed. Now there are a few flights a day. So that's better than when there were none. But yes, things are getting better. They will continue to get better for a while. The problem is that this expansion has lasted the longest in, I'll use U.S. history, in American history. So maybe it's going to go on forever, but unlikely it never has. So I suspect sometime in the next few weeks, months, things will slow down again, and we'll have recessions, which we've had since the beginning of time. We always look for easy solutions when things get bad. Again, read history. It always happens. People look for something that will make life easier, and they try it. They try it. If there's a theory lying around, they say, "Oh, let's try that. Let's try that for a while." That's what more money today will be. MMT. They will try that, but in the end, everybody cannot just print money. Or let's put it this way: never in history has that worked in the long term. It may work in the short term, but if it works, eventually all currencies are debased and people have to look for something stable. As you well point out, nearly every country in the world is doing it at an unprecedented level. In Japan, the head of the Bank of Japan says he will print unlimited, that's his word, unlimited amounts of money. Everybody is doing it, and historically that has eventually led to inflation. I mean, I don't know if you go shopping, Keith, or not. Maybe your butler does your shopping, but the rest of us know that prices are going up, no matter what it is, for education, groceries, restaurants, entertainment, education. Prices are going up again. The U.S. government, and whenever we talk about governments, I'll try to qualify, but the U.S. government says, don't worry, it's not going to last. You believe them, that things are different this time, that gigantic money printing does not lead to inflation, then you shouldn't listen to me. But I expect more inflation. Now, back to gold and silver. Throughout history, people like me have always turned to gold and silver in times like this. I mean, you weren't asking about gold yet, but look,
David, the politicians and the academics and the bureaucrats tell you gold is not worth it. Gold is a barbarous relic. That's what they call it. Maybe, but peasants like me throughout history know that gold and silver, okay, it may be a barbarous relic, but I'm going to own it.
Rick, let me say again, the largest debtor nation in the history of the world and printing money faster than any country in the history of the world. This has to end badly.
But the government would say the people need it. They went through this COVID situation. In the meltdown during the Obama administration, they went through a very difficult situation because of the banks. So we as a government had to give them all this free money so they can get back on their feet. That's the argument they would make. What would you say?
Rick, they want to keep their jobs. They don't care about my children. They don't care about you and me. They're trying to keep their jobs. And yeah, everything is great right now. Look out the window. Yeah. Things are booming. But there has to be a tomorrow. And I'm worried about the tomorrow. It's great. As I say, it's good to be old. Rick, when you print a lot of money, it's got to go somewhere. It takes a long time to build a factory. It takes a long time to build a bridge. But you can go online, and in 8 seconds, you can buy a lot of Microsoft or anything you want to, and that's what's happening. Stocks and bonds all over the world are going through the roof because all this money has to go somewhere. But I'll remind you, somebody's got to pay for it someday. I'm just telling you facts of what's going on, whether we like it or not. We have to deal with facts. Unfortunately, in Washington, they don't think they have to deal with facts. They think they can just do what they want. It's not a good time to be young in America because what the young people are going to inherit is mind-boggling. I've got 2 teenage kids, and it disturbs me. It's good to be old, because I don't have to pay. I don't have to pay for all of this. You know, I get the benefits. They're borrowing a lot of money, spending a lot of money. Pretty well. I'm old. Okay, do it. It helps me, but it doesn't help the future. 100 years ago, Britain was the richest, most powerful country in the world. There was no number 2. 50 years later, they were bankrupt. Literally, the IMF had to fly into Heathrow to bail them out. So it can happen. It has happened. It often happens. And the symptoms, the money printing, the debt, etc., have always led to the problem, the kind of problems you're talking about. I don't think it'll happen in 2001 or 2021 or even 2022, but it's on the way.
In the end, everybody cannot just print money, or let's put it this way, never in history has that worked in the long term. It may work in the short term, but if it works, eventually all currencies are debased and people have to look for something stable. They want to keep their jobs. They don't care about my children. They don't care about you and me. They're trying to keep their job. Throughout history, people like me have always turned to gold and silver in times like this.
Rick, let me say again, the largest debtor nation in the history of the world and printing money faster than any country in the history of the world. This has to end badly.